Well, good morning, YouTubers, Rebel Audience, America. So a lot to go over today. A lot to go over. We have got so much to talk about. But yesterday, one thing I want to go into right away, because it's a bit of a extensive topic, and let me unlock this screen over here as well, is the 3D printing of guns. I know we've been talking about that. We've been saying how we want to go into it. And yesterday, I wanted to touch on it, but we didn't have a lot of time. And it's definitely a topic that requires a bit more attention to detail, And so we're going to go into it today in depth. And I'm going to tell you a story. Greetings from Nottingham, UK. Hello, everybody. And again, guys, we've been working on the stream. We're working hard to perfect it. We got some new gear, but and it is not the bandwidth. Unfortunately, we're still running into a little problem here. I can see it. Going to try to figure this out. All right, so I want to find a story for you that's really relevant, and it dovetails very nicely with this story about the 3D printing of guns, because one of my biggest problems, one of my absolutely biggest problems on all this is the hypocrisy, not just of the mainstream media, but the hypocrisy of those on the left, those left-wing organizations. And unfortunately, I can't find it. Pain in the neck. Let me see if I can do a different search. Yeah, here we go. All right, I got the story for you. So the hypocrisy of these left-wing groups on this issue. Now, you've probably seen media on the issue, right? There's a debate right now as to whether or not people are able to stream, or I shouldn't say stream. My mind is focused on streaming because of our little stream issue here. But there's an issue as to whether or not people should be allowed to disseminate, to post up on the web for download, schematics that would enable you to plug the blueprints, the schematics, into a 3D printer and print firearms components. And hey, good morning, John Zealand. And my position on this is they absolutely should be 100%. Not even a Second Amendment issue. It's a First Amendment issue. And here's why it's a First Amendment issue. Those blueprints, those schematics are, at the end of the day, I don't care what the subject matter is. I don't care if subject matter is how to build a firearm. I don't care if the subject matter is how to build a bridge. Those schematics, those blueprints, they are educational materials, right? They're teaching you how to do something. By definition, educational materials. The left doesn't see it that way. The left absolutely refuses to see it that way. And that's a travesty. And it's a tragedy because they are. Now, in a couple of seconds here, I'm going to explain to you just how bad, just how disingenuous the left is. I'm going to explain to you how they don't want you to have access to First Amendment protected materials. And just a note, I'm running a speed test here. Very frustrating. I'm getting broadcast quality up speeds, still getting this terrible image quality on the YouTube stream. And a little better now, but very, very frustrating why we can't seem to bridge the gap between what's happening over here and what YouTube is taking in terms of quality. Incredibly frustrating. Have to figure this out. But all that being said, so we've got this 3D printer issue, and it's stupid. Quite frankly, it's really stupid. Good. You guys tell me you have a crisp image. Great. Thank you, because mine, unfortunately, is not, and it's really, really frustrating to me. But we'll get it eventually. We'll figure this out. It's very, very frustrating to deal with this. Anyway, so why are these 3D printer issues, in my opinion, educational material? Well, they teach you how to do something, okay? They're not handing you an illegal firearm. They're simply saying to you that if you have the know-how and you have the equipment, this is something that can possibly be manufactured. Now, I'm a shooter. I'm a collector, was a cop, worked in a firearms unit, know a lot about firearms, a hobby of mine. All right, maybe a little too much. Tom King, thanks, being here from Scotland. Right, good to hear my stream is good with you guys. What I'm seeing on my end doesn't look so good, so keep me posted. So I am the biggest Second Amendment defender in the world. So for that reason alone, I like the fact that people can learn how to make their own firearms. I am the biggest First Amendment defender in the world. I like YBA 202 says the web is worldwide. First or Second Amendment doesn't apply, but it's a U.S. case. Those countries have to worry about it on their own. I'm in the U.S. The issue's being heard in the U.S., so the First and Second Amendment absolutely do apply. They absolutely do apply. Anyway, now, this all being said, I want to see these blueprints able to be disseminated. I personally wouldn't fire a 3D firearm. Well, let me say it. If it was made on a CNC machine with aluminum or steel, I would, but not one that's made of plastic. Look, I carry a Glock every day. A Glock is a polymer weapon. But Glock spent millions upon millions of dollars in research and development, figuring out that mix of polymer that's going to absorb recoil while remaining strong enough to not shatter and blow up in your hand. I don't know if I would want to fire a plastic gun made in somebody's basement on a 3D printer because of the polymers and all involved. But again, that's my personal preference. If Americans want to be able to do that, they should be able to do that. But here's where the case gets really sticky. Okay, first, Ellie, you're dead wrong. You're saying, why is it even an issue? It's no different than being able to post how to make a bomb. It's insane to allow it. World's gone mad. So you're 100% wrong. Because explosives are used in the mining industry. Explosives are used in the construction industry. Explosives are used to control avalanches. There are many, many legal uses for explosives. But at the end of the day, you're not giving somebody a bomb. You're simply disseminating educational materials. And yours is a very liberal position. Rod Robertson feels the way I do. Plastic trigger group is okay, but you need a metal receiver. See, I'm fine with my polymer receiver on my Glock and on my Smith & Wesson Shield and on other polymer weapons. I don't even have a problem with that. But I want to know that there was some research and development that went into that polymer development. So you and I agree about 85%. But I don't want to get too wonky with the gun stuff and into polymers and receivers. This is about the First Amendment issue here. Now, here's why this case infuriates me and why I want the material to be disseminated. So you all know I was in law enforcement, worked a lot with child sex predator cases, things of that nature, worked a lot against NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, that group that exists to promote pedophilia. Well, what does NAMBLA have to do with guns and disseminating information about firearms? What are you talking about, Cardillo? Where are you going? Well, let me read you a case that came up years back. In 1997, a 10-year-old boy in, I believe it was Massachusetts, named Jeffrey Curley, was brutally raped, molested, sodomized, and murdered by a violent sexual predator. How to groom children, gain their trust, gain access to the child's life, how to avoid the police investigating pedophilia cases. All of these materials provided by NAMBLA that taught these pedophiles how to molest, ultimately brutally rape and murder this little boy. And I saw the case file. It was so brutal, so bad. I won't even talk about it here. It still infuriates me. It's a 20-year-old case. Parents of Jeffrey Curley sued NAMBLA and the defendants. And do you know who protected the pedophiles? The ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, because they said that NAMBLA denied encouraging the rape or murder of anyone. According to the ACLU, this is from an ABC News story at the time, the suit is designed to stifle the dissemination of the group's unpopular beliefs advocating consensual sexual relationships between adult men and boys and abolishing age of consent laws that classify adult sex with children as rape. Plus, NAMBLA should not be punished for the crimes of the two men, and their beliefs should be protected. despite their unpopularity. The ACLU said, quote, there was nothing in those publications or on their website which advocated or incited the commission of any illegal acts, including murder or rape. NAMBLA's publication, this is from NAMBLA and the ACLU, it's the ACLU statement. NAMBLA's, quote, NAMBLA's publications advocate for changes in society's views about consensual sex between adults and minors. The advocacy is political speech protected by the First Amendment. We urge the public not to jump to conclusions about NAMBLA based on the allegations appearing in the press and the Curley complaint. We also urge consideration of the consequences to freedom of speech, holding authors, musicians, or filmmakers liable in damages. Let me read you the rest of this. In damages for crimes committed by individuals who have read, heard, or seen their work. And that is why this is directly correlative to this gun case. The ACLU stepped in. The ACLU stepped in to protect the right of a pedophile group to disseminate information on how to better rape and murder children and get away with it. The ACLU fought and they won. They won. NAMBLA's literature, as disgusting, as heinous, as reprehensible as it is First Amendment protected speech. But these same liberals want to block the dissemination of blueprints for firearms. So now let me read you the ACLU statement again, but let's put it in the context of guns. Let me change some wording. There was nothing in those publications or on the websites which advocated or incited the commission of any illegal acts, including illegal use of a firearm. The 3D blueprints simply inform the public how, with the right equipment, to manufacture inanimate mechanical devices. This is political speech protected by the First Amendment. All I did was change a few words in the ACLU statement and apply it to firearms because it's identical. Because it's identical. And the fact that these liberal groups, these bastions of liberalism, go out in force to protect the ACLU, but to protect NAMBLA. Again, NAMBLA stands for the North American Man-Boy Love Association. It's one of the largest, most well-organized pedophile groups in the nation. And when they tell you they're not about violence and raping children, they're lying. There's a book I strongly recommend you read, about 15 or so years old. It's written by a guy named Bob Hamer. He was an FBI special agent and undercover. And the book is called The Last Undercover. And it's about Hamer's last undercover assignment. He infiltrated NAMBLA. He played a wealthy pedophile who would fund these trips to Thailand, and he took down a lot of bad guys. The book is called The Last Undercover. I really, really suggest you read it because you're going to see a lot. These pedophile issues are back in the news. And NAMBLA knows that with democratic socialism creeping in, there's a big push being made to legitimize them. So they're saying, well, we don't advocate criminality. Our members aren't into illegally molesting kids. Read Hamer's book, The Last Undercover. Read this book. It will tell you the true story about NAMBLA and about these pedophile organizations, okay? I highly recommend it. Watch me. Listen to me. I worked these cases. I arrested these guys. I had a very, very liberal psychologist. Great guys. One of my closest friends, but was very liberal. Not so much anymore. And he was tasked with evaluating 6 pedophiles in the New York State criminal justice system. And before going in, he told me that I was too hardcore and I was draconian in my desire for punishment. And after he evaluated these guys, he came to me one night. We're having a drink in a bar. And he said, we need to take these MFers behind the prisons and shoot them in the head. They're evil. This is a guy who thought he could cure them. This is a guy who is liberal, bleeding heart. By the end of it, he wanted to shoot pedophiles behind prisons. Look, I want to go back to the issue at hand, though. The ACLU is nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found on the issue of the 3D printing of guns. And the case law is clear. Now, lawyers, advocates for those disseminating the blueprints are going to go back to the ACLU statements here. They're going to go back to the court cases that enabled NAMBLA to disseminate pedophilic material. And they're going to say, hey, if that was educational material designed to inform, designed to educate, no matter how unpopular, no matter how distasteful to some, to many, to the most, in the case of NAMBLA, it is First Amendment protected information, as are these blueprints for firearms, as are these blueprints for firearms. And if you don't understand that, then you really don't understand the true nature of the First Amendment here in the United States. Now, Rod Roberts says, because we get back to the guns, I hate pedos. They make me want to use guns. Yeah, they don't even get me started. I worked those cases for more than a few years, child porn cases. It's once you see the image, I used to tell people that worked with us, if you don't have a reason in the course of this job to view the imagery, don't, because it'll never leave you. If you don't absolutely have to view it for your job, don't go near it. It'll scare you for the rest of your life. Anyway, the guns. So this issue of 3D printers is silly. This is protected material. Look, I've looked at these blueprints. I'm not a mechanical engineer. I don't know what the hell to do with them. Yeah, it's cool. I can look at them and I can see a gun exploded and all the parts inside. And as a gun buff, as a collector, as a shooter, as a hunter, as a, just guy who loves to build my ARs and things of that nature, it's an interesting schematic for me. But do I have the time or the inclination to go out and buy a 3D printer and do homework with polymers? And let me be very clear about something. As a guy who worked a robbery and gun unit, all right, we're responding, I don't even know to how many of these cases, how many of these jobs, and how many grand juries I testified in front of, hearings, trials. I lost count. Hundreds of arrests. And I'll tell you, it's, hi from Thailand. How you doing, Howard? Great to see you. Gun crime is a spur of the moment thing. You don't think, oh, hey, that guy just cut me off and gave me the finger. All right, let me get to my office. Let me download the blueprints for an AR. Let me go hunt around for a 3D printer. Let me hunt around for the polymers. This stuff's going to come in 2 weeks. All right, let me print this thing out. Oh, damn it. First, second, and third tries, I screwed it up. All right, fourth try's a charm. Now I got a gun. I'm going to go find that guy that cut me off a month and a half ago. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Gangbangers aren't waiting for their 3D printer to go do a drive-by of the rival gangbanger that tried to whack one of their buddies the night before. They're going to go buy an illegal gun on the street. Again, this is stupid. Trying to ban this stuff, number one, is against, it violates the First Amendment. But to think that you're going to reduce gun crime by banning the dissemination of blueprints of firearms is about the dumbest thing I can think of. There's a show on the History Channel. I watch it. I love it. I DVR it. I watch reruns because I love it. Called Forged in Fire. And every week on a Tuesday night for an hour, they teach you how to make weapons. What, are we going to ban that TV show as well? Are we going to ban shows about blacksmithing and bladesmithing because they give you instructions on how to make a weapon? Richard Driscoll says there are only certain sections of the gun that will be made of polymer, not the barrel or chamber. Actually, there are people playing with polymers now for one-shots in the barrel and chamber with low pressure ammunition, 22 long rifle, things of that nature. So it is entirely possible to get a few rounds out of a completely polymer gun. You'll foul it up, but is it possible? Yes. So and I can't believe how many people on the stream, are advocating for the suppression of the dissemination of educational materials, of informational materials. I don't know why you would advocate for that and then tune into conservative media. I don't know why you would do that. Doesn't make any sense. William Wren, what about spring? Still metal? No, but you got to remember something, you guys. You're missing something in the United States. The only part that you need to worry about manufacturing is the lower receiver. That's the only registered item with the ATF, or the item that's serial numbered, that you're supposed to purchase with a 4473 or some other type of ATF form. Everything else you can mail order. Everything else you can walk into a gun shop. The chamber's in a semi-automatic is connected to the barrel, and in a revolver, it's part of the frame. But in a you can walk into a gun show, and a gun store, and buy the slide, the barrel, the pretty much every other component except for the lower receiver, and you could pay cash and never give your name. So they're only really worried about the lower receivers. Those are the only components in a firearm that are supposed to have the serial number. Everything else is, I can walk into a gun show and buy every other component. I could walk into a gun shop. I could go online and buy every other component. I don't have to file anything for that. So it doesn't really matter. The springs and all are metal. That nobody's going to be smuggling these things on the planes. Okay, that's not what the problem is. Now, I've got no problem. Now, I do. Right. Rod Robertson makes a good point. You could have the plans to build a nuke. Good luck getting the fissionable materials, the U-235 and things of that nature. NLGHTN donated $5. And by the way, yeah, you can super chat, give us a quick donation. He said, shall not be infringed on my plastic rights, straws. I was getting there. What happens in California when we start using these 3D printers to make plastic straws? Then all hell is going to break loose. Because you can have my straw when you pry it from my cold, dead fingers. When straws are outlawed, only outlaws will have straws. That's right. But look, this is all moronic. This is all really, really stupid. But it goes into the disingenuous nature of the mainstream media, right? Now, talking about the mainstream media, I don't know if you guys, tell me on the stream, I don't know if you guys on the chat saw Jim Acosta's meltdown in the White House press conference yesterday. The press conference yesterday was actually one of the better ones. I've got to watch these for work. And the president had the heads of all of the agencies. Wow, Casper from South Africa. Awesome. Love having you here, and thanks for the compliment. We love doing the show for you. Glad you're catching it after it's live. So the White House press conference, it's the heads of all the agencies tasked with securing our cyber and critical infrastructures. You had DNI, Dan Coates, Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coates, Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, FBI Director Christopher Wray, General Nakasone, head of U.S. Cyber Command and the NSA, and National Security Advisor Ambassador John Bolton. And they're up there and they talk about how they're going to secure the critical infrastructure. Hey, Rory from the UK, how are you? Now, after they're done, Sarah Huckabee Sanders gets up there and says, okay, I'm going to take other questions. She gets a couple of questions, and then she makes the mistake of calling on crybaby Jim Acosta from CNN. Now, this whole show is about the First Amendment. I am a First Amendment guy. All right? I'm a First Amendment guy. But what Jim Acosta did yesterday was not reportage. What Jim Acosta did was a tantrum. He wasn't asking a question. He was demanding the White House press secretary say what he wanted her to say. And when she didn't say it, he threw a hissy fit and ran out of the room. He then went on Twitter, started tweeting, I'll paraphrase. I left the White House press room because they weren't doing what I wanted them to do. Then he went on CNN's Brooke Baldwin show and started crying. She yelled at me. And then, oh, shut up, Acosta. Look, I am the biggest defender of the First Amendment, of a free press. But nobody's barring Jim Acosta from doing anything. Jim Acosta is conflating and confusing criticism of his crybabiness with him being restricted. They didn't kick him out of the White House press room. He left. She called on him. She let him speak. So he wasn't being silenced. He wasn't being restricted. But he didn't ask a question. He started telling the White House press secretary what he wanted her to say. And when she wouldn't do it, he threw a temper tantrum. Now, here's the thing. Jim Acosta is a moron. I think he sucks at what he does. But he's free to say whatever he wants to say under the First Amendment. My problem with Jim Acosta is he should do what I do, what others do. admit that you're a commentator with a political bent. Don't purport to be an objective journalist, because you're not, Jim. You're not an objective journalist. You're an opinion commentator. Now, I'm guessing that's where Acosta wants his career to go. These little stunts, these little protests he's throwing in the White House, these little stunts at Trump rallies, tell me, as a guy in media, that Jim Acosta is positioning himself for a much more high-paying primetime slot as a commentator with his own show, rather than just being the White House correspondent. The liberals love him. He'll have good ratings. He'll speak to his experience in the White House press room and all that other stuff. And he's going to make some good money at it. And you know what? God bless him. If there's an audience out there that wants to watch Jim Acosta as a commentator, more power to him. That's the free market. People watch me. I do this show. I do a different show in the afternoon, a TV show, cable TV show. People watch us. You guys come, you chat. That's the free market, right? Acosta's going to have a big audience on the left. Good. I've got no problem with that. God bless him. More power to him. But stop, Acosta, Jim Acosta, making believe you're an objective journalist. An objective journalist would have one question in the thousands you've posed that might be, objective or complimentary of the administration. But when every appearance, when every question, every time you're called on, you're combative and rude, and you attack the administration, and you're trying to get optimum camera time, and you're cutting off your colleagues, and when the press secretary or whoever's giving the press conference moves to someone else, you're yelling over them to get your attention. When you're being asked to leave the Oval Office and you're screaming over the president's aide, that goes from reportage to activism in the White House. It's weird, and it's not journalism. It's not objective. It isn't. It's silly, really. It's weird. It's cheap. It's low rent. It's absolutely cheap and low rent. That's my coffee and my Captain America mug. So, that was my problem with it. So you've got all these people on the left who want to be bastions of the First Amendment, if they could protect pedophiles, but not gun rights. You've got left-wing reporters screaming about their First Amendment rights being infringed upon when they're being given a platform in the White House press room to shout their opinions, and then throwing tantrums when the White House press secretary doesn't parrot the words they want her to say. It's weird. It's just weird. It's unreasonable. It's out of line. And America sees through it. That's why America calls it fake news. That's why America's over it. That's why America wants no part of it anymore. America's done with being told what to think. When you've got independent outlets like The Rebel, when you've got other independent media outlets, when you've got good reporting, you've got people out there doing periscopes who are on scene for events. Everybody got a cell phone camera. You don't need the left-leaning mainstream media to tell you what to think. Now, you guys talking about Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I think she's awesome. And I love the way she responded to Jim Acosta. She basically put him in his place. She owned him. Said, you guys in the media call for violence. You guys in the media invited you in the White House Correspondents Association, invited a comedian to the White House Correspondents' Dinner to make fun of my personal appearance. Man, the room went silent. The room went silent. And she was right. And she put Acosta in his place. And he had nothing to say. He was stuttering. Well, I'm sorry that happened. You know you weren't, Jim, because you didn't call it out. You didn't. And that's the one place Sarah made a mistake. If I were Sarah, I would have said, Jim, really? Did you call her out on Twitter? Did you call that out on your show the next day? Did you call it out on Twitter? You weren't sorry, Jim. You had a platform. You could have done it then. But they don't do it because they're disingenuous. They're radicals. They're activists. They'd rather protect pedophiles with the First Amendment than gun owners. They'd rather scream and yell and engage in activism in the White House press room rather than engage in reporting and give you objective information so you can make the best decisions. All right. Let's go and look at some of your comments because a lot of them came in. Let's see what we got here. Talked about the gun stuff. We talked about the bomb stuff. We talked about Martin DeBeer says he will use his new printed gun and, shoot. Good. Let's see. We got a lot to talk about Justin Trudeau. Yeah, shoot a plastic gun, okay, would not handle the bullet exit without exploding. Well, certain polymers, and you got a 22. It's gonna work. It's not gonna blow up in your hand. I wouldn't do it. But you're gonna sear the rifling off, and it's not gonna be particularly accurate. Let's see. Yeah, you guys are kind of agreeing with me here. So, and look, I know that you have. I know that you guys, have much different, much more restrictive gun laws in Canada. It's a shame. I wish you didn't. I wish you guys had not had to endure that massive gun grab up there. It really sucks. It's unfortunate when Michael Horgan says liberals hate plastics because muck global warming, but ironically push for paper products which wipe out forests. Yeah, true. And if liberals are told tomorrow that the most environmentally unfriendly products in the world could silence conservatives and take away our guns, liberals would be for destroying the environment to do that. It's just more liberal hypocrisy. Acosta is crazy. Of course, MD says, yeah, it's just a little bit ridiculous. Swampy McGee, like I said, we have a policy here. If you troll, if you mock our military, if you sit here and just try to harass in general, we kind of tell you to have a nice day. And we tell you to go bye-bye. Bye-bye. Samu says, calls up that weapon laws are exactly. That's all it was ever about. Look, these liberals know people are going to get guns. They know that. That's not what it's about. John Zealand says Ezra's video with Tommy yesterday was getting 5 views per second. That's why I told you guys. I'm not going to report on Tommy because Ezra's really doing a better job than anybody else out there reporting on Tommy. So there's no sense in me doing it when Ezra's close friends with Tommy, knows the family, knows the intricacies of this case like nobody else. He's going to give you the best inside information. It wouldn't even make sense for me to touch on the story. Wouldn't even make sense for me to do it. It's out there. Where couldn't be happier Tommy's freed, but Ezra's really should be my go-to on it. So I'm not going to give you secondhand info. Watch Ezra for that. Let's see what else we got. Do we have on Acosta? Cordasso says, wow, it took me 2 seconds to get my hands on the terrorist handbook. A book on how to make explosives. Yeah, the stuff is out there. This book is out there. And you're wrong. He he absolutely did. Ask Sarah Huckabee Sanders to contradict the president of the United States. And Farzakati, you're wrong, because if you go to Jim Acosta's own Twitter feed, he clearly says he left the White House press briefing before it was over. He threw a temper tantrum and he left. So would you just put here on the chat is fake news. It's fake news. NHBABZ says, in fact, ghost guns are good for only one shot. Congress has a law that metal pins are required for detection. Fake left meltdown once again and non-facts. Yep, it is with the metal pin. MD says, John, legal question. What constitutes felony assault? I'm curious in regard to recent openly public attacks by an SJW on a YouTube personality in Indianapolis. Well, it's state to state, but typically felony assault is something that could cause physical injury, serious physical injury, or death. If I use my hands, but you're on the floor and I'm stomping your head into the curb, that would be felony assault. I hit you with a pipe. I use a knife, a gun. Those would all be felony assault. Differs from state to state, but that's typically what the police would charge felony assault. If I punch you in the face, and you're not seriously injured, typically a misdemeanor. But again, state to state on that. Let's see what else we got. Martin DeBeer says he has a plastic gun and an air guitar. Let's see. Fox hasn't ignored Tommy Robbins, and Tucker talked about it. Yep. And Katie Hopkins is out there chatting about it everywhere. Josh Dunn, should you be allowed to print guns? Yes, I believe you should be. And I believe you should be able to disseminate the information on how to do it. Gab says the interview with Tommy was good, but needed a bigger time slot. Fox News gives you 4 to 7 minutes. Their airtime is very, very expensive. You're never going to get more than 4 to 7 minutes on Fox. It's just any major network. Very, very difficult for them to do that. They have commercial breaks. It costs them a lot of money to do what they do. They've got to keep those sponsors on air. So very, very difficult. Does the Second Amendment require the government to be able to detect your weapons? No, and they shouldn't. That's why I'm not even a fan, Rod, of the concept of 4473s. But that's a whole nother show. Anglo-Saxon, hi from England. And guys, if the stream continues to be this fuzzy, I don't know if you guys are having a fuzzy stream, let me know. Because now mine is crystal clear when I refresh, but it was pretty fuzzy earlier. So it seems to be going in and out on me. But I need you guys to let me know what you're seeing, because I'm looking from the same screen from which I'm broadcasting, so it's a little more difficult. All right, looks great now. Thanks, Deccan. Yeah, so should we be able to print guns? Absolutely. Let's see what else we got. And I suggest you guys watch, Tommy's videos. Look, it's terrible what was done to him. But remember, he's only out on bail. He's got to go back before another judge. So you're resetting back to 720 on your monitor, and the resolution's been good. Let me see if I can. You know what? That's working for me too. Seems to be much better. Let me see if I go higher than that. Guys, see if you what happens when you go to 1080. Because right now I'm at 1080 and my stream is looking better than it's been. A little shaky, but because my camera's broadcasting 1080. But 720 seems to be smooth. Maybe that was it. Let's see. Tommy has to take a step back and plan a strategy, Ivan Freeman says, instead of trying to be in the front of the line and end up a martyr. I think that's good advice. But Tommy's built his brand on charging into it. And so I think, it's very, very hard when you're a hard charging guy to take a step back. Hangman John Ruth says 1080 is good also. I can go to 144 and get crazy shirt. All right. I gave you guys t-shirts this week. I didn't do crazy shirt. Crazy shirt on Monday. Crazy shirt on Monday. I promise. I owed you guys crazy shirt. It's you guys are going a lot into Tommy again. I'd really, really rather you guys do that with Ezra, because he's so on top of this. I don't want to miss anything. One of my, really what I try to focus on here at the Rebel is the U.S. And so I haven't been following Hangman John Ruth. Not that I've been following Tommy, but not going in deep with the court filings and all of the things you need to be most informed on that case. Chuck McGill, Q is not a big deal. Q is fake. Let's see. Let's see what somebody wants to hold me to wearing. Hangman John Ruth is holding me to wearing the crazy shirt. The shirt is not crazy. The camera makes the shirt crazy. The shirt is good. Chuck McGill, Q is not huge. Q is fake. Nothing Q has predicted has come out. Q is old, 2-day-old open source information pieced together and acting as if this is some insider. Believe me, If there was a real insider, it wouldn't be on 4chan. All right? It wouldn't be. And what's happening there is terrible disinformation. I say it every day because it's important to say. There's no plan behind the scenes. Jeff Sessions and Robert Mueller are not in some conspiracy to bring down Hillary. All right? I talked to people in the DOJ daily in the White House. They're beside themselves with how bad Jeff Sessions is. You want to believe Q, you believe Q. No, Q doesn't get the legacy media to look. Chris Cuomo was talking about a conspiracy theory. Nobody takes that seriously. Nobody. Nobody in the intelligence community. Nobody in the law enforcement community. Nobody. But it is fun fan fiction. It's fun fan fiction. BH makes an interesting comment. The NRA only cares about gun rights when they're making money. It's not the case. I know a lot of people are down on the NRA. But the NRA has to win a big war. All right? Not just battles. I know people here in Florida were very upset with the NRA after our Florida gun bill. I'm going to read Girly Girl Hippie's comment in a second because she's onto something. And I was very upset with the NRA not pushing back harder in Florida. But here's the problem. The NRA has to win much bigger wars. They're going to have to give back in certain states. They have to. I don't like it. But here's the bigger problem. We have to get loud. When the NRA gives back, that's when we've got to call and email and text our legislators and tell them enough. No, we're no longer putting up with it. We're not putting up with it. So we don't care that the NRA gave on the issue. We want this. All right. Girly Girl Hippie says, I think Q is owned by CNN. Seems they're always pointing out this good in government and they're on our side. Thank you. Exactly. If you read into this Q idiocy, moronicness, if that's a word, what Q is telling you is trust government. Trust Big Brother. Trust the special counsel. Trust the nanny state. You're being led like a sheep if you buy into this nonsense. Being led by a sheep. Go Commit, Not Alive. How often do you live streams? Every morning, every weekday morning, Monday through Friday. Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. All right. Casper asks an amazing question. I was talking about this yesterday. Why are 3D printed guns a big deal when a small metal workshop in the USA can easily purchase surplus gun barrels and manufacture any firearm? In parts of Pakistan, this is common. Exactly. Casper, great comment. If you have a CNC machine, a lathe, a machine shop, and some basic know-how, you can manufacture firearms. It is not a complicated process. That's why I don't understand it. Richard Driscoll says we're stuttering and freezing a bit. Yeah, we're perfecting our settings here with some new equipment. We're going to get, oh my God, I'm not even answering any more Q questions because when you combine Q with Alex Jones, my head hurts. Let's see. The PTB, which I don't know what that is, Buzzicino. I'm not sure what your would say. Take their guns, take their knives, take their bats, take their cars, then the hell with it, take their freedom, enslave them for their own protection. Yes. Agreed. Agreed. Gab says exactly. Guides for explosives have been on the internet since the 90s. Law-abiding citizens don't abuse it. It's First Amendment protected. Got to leave it alone. Exactly. Boo says, isn't making guns at home illegal? Not really. There's a lot of gray area on that. Now, the ATF says you're supposed to have a license to manufacture, but I suspect there are going to be court challenges on that. Let's see. Chuck McGill says you can make a zip gun in a minute with a tool shop. Yeah, of course. That's why this whole hysteria over 3D guns is just silly. It's just simply silly. So BH makes a great comment. 3D printers are still too expensive for the average bloke. Yeah, exactly. And a gangbanger in the heat of the moment isn't going to go on Amazon and order his 3D printer. All right, he's going to go on the street and buy a gun. Leroy says it is not illegal to make firearms personal use. That's how I interpret the law as well. The ATF is now saying that's a misinterpretation. So let's see what the when the court challenges come, what shakes out. The bad apples would rather buy a gun off the street for a couple of $100. BH says exactly. Exactly. Okay, MD says, is the ATF license regarding manufacturing guns for sale, dissemination, or does it strictly cover personal use? No. There are many licenses. There are many licenses by the ATF. Manufacturers' licenses. You then need an FFL to sell firearms. Go to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms webpage. It'll give you all the different types of licenses for manufacturing, et cetera. You need to meet certain criteria for these licenses. Richard Driscoll says, I've got a $2,800 3D printer. Yeah, but you still spend $3,000. And you had to order it and wait to get it, and there's a learning curve to use it. And it's not something in the heat of the moment, you're just going to go out, buy, make a gun in 3 seconds, and go shoot somebody. That's, well, MD saying not sure that they're expensive. You get a good one for $500. But, and there's a question as to whether it can handle the materials required to print a gun. You're proving my point. It took me longer to read your comment than it would to take that same $500, go out on the street and buy an illegal gun. Why bother? Why bother? There are 100 million illegal guns out there. Buzacino says, well, it's good point. If it doesn't matter how many weapons you take from people, you'll never stop violence until you take away the intent to kill, which you're never going to do because it's been around since the beginning of time. Good morning, Robert Jackson. It's been around since the beginning of time. Been around. Do I think 3D printed guns will make hitmen more common? No, I do not. Look, to me, a 3D printed gun is a novelty. It's, hey, look, I made this. Let me try to shoot it up. I don't feel comfortable shooting this thing. This ain't Glock level polymer. Chicago, Baltimore, St. Louis, the Bronx, Compton, DC, Detroit, they ain't happening because of 3D printers, all right? They ain't happening because of 3D printers. So, Aaron Sam says, doesn't everyone have a 3D printer in their truck with magic speed? It's a good comment, actually. Doesn't everyone have a 3D printer in their truck with magic speed printing in the same amount of murders? Mexico has 1/3 the population of the United States, 3 times the amount of murders. That ain't because of 3D printers, okay? That is not because of 3D printers. Michael Horrigan, now you're scaring me. All right? Michael Horrigan said, I'm going to print out Chuck Norris's fist. That's a whole different ballgame, man. We might have banned that. Don't send those blueprints out on the internet. You might crash the web. And guys, I don't know why it's weird. As we get to the end of the show, we start to have these stream problems every day. It's very, very odd. Very, very odd. Candy Kane says Sicario. Something tells me the drug cartel Sicarios, Candy, they don't need 3D printed guns. They've got all the guns they need. I saw another comment I liked. Let me make sure who says it. Let me make sure who said it. Wait a minute. It was a good one. It was a good one. Ivan Freeman said, did you know that you can 3D print a 3D printer? Yep. Abraham Brown says he would print Stormy Daniels. Oh, I think she's gross. I don't find her attractive at all. I do not find her attractive at all. The Mad Professor says there's nothing to do with plastic or polymer printers. It's everything to do with 3D milling machines, CNC machines. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but that's not how it's being portrayed in the mainstream media. And let's face it, if you are running CNC and you're running a milling shop and you've got your lathes, chances are you know how to make a gun. All right? You're not doing it because you're a law-abiding citizen. And guys, unfortunately, the stream is getting bad again. We got to diagnose this because I don't want to put you through a bad stream. I'm seeing some problems on my end here. So I will be back with you on Monday morning. Really interesting conversation today. I'm going to think of some cool topics for you then. I'm sure something is going to break over the weekend with this White House and the way liberals react to it. Something always does. You have an amazing, amazing weekend. I will see you guys Monday morning. Peace out.